I've become very good at getting used to human energy, like understanding human energy. And you can tell when the energy changes, especially when you walk in a room. The energy instantly changes. You can tell when someone's afraid of you, when they like you, when they're interested in conversation with you. Their energy will change. So I have walked into a lot of rooms where the energy has instantly changed for the negative in the negative side, and it's become very, very uncomfortable. So I've had to be very, very confident. Some would say overconfident to overcome that overcompensating energy that's meant to. Why is this guy here? What is he doing? Who is that? What is he? How did he get in here? Did someone leave the door open?
Mm.
You know,
A talk between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. Conversations have the power to inspire, teach, and uplift. Here, we are all about inspiring you to follow your dreams, use your gift, and walk in your purpose. I'm your host, Obiemi Ifufore, and this is Conversations with Opie. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode. My guest today is Jesse Jackson III, and he's currently an instructor at the Culinary Institute of America. Welcome to the show.
thank you very much. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to meet you all. Thanks for tuning in.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So again, my name is Jesse Jackson III. I am a pastry chef instructor at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. I've been a pastry chef for the better part of 16, going on 16 years now. I've dedicated my life to the pastry field, culinary field, hospitality field. I've worked pretty much all over. I spent a majority of my time working in fine dining kitchens in Boston. And I worked at Disney World in Orlando, Boca Raton Resort. I've done numerous competitions. I had a business called Fedora Donuts in Rhode Island. That was open for about 3 years. Mobile, it was more of like a mobile pop-up kind of donut business. But I had to close it, unfortunately, due to COVID last year. But everything happens for a reason, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to have started my business and flourish enough that I was comfortable enough to show my craft to other people, and people were willing to pay for it. So unfortunate to close the business, but another door opened and the CIA gave me a call, and here I am today as an instructor, and I've been there for going on. This will be my first full school year there. So September will be my first calendar year as an instructor there, and I'm loving every minute of it. Every minute of it.
That is amazing. I am always intrigued by your posts on Instagram. Like everything looks so delicious, so detailed and amazing. But what got you were you always interested in pastry or just the culinary like field in general, or was it just more focused on pastries?
That's a very good question. So a little bit context there. So when I was in high school, we had this vocational representative for the vocational school for our county came in for a presentation in my high school class when I was in 10th grade. And they had sent us a list of all the vocations that they have available at the school. So I looked down the list, and in 10th grade, I wasn't really thinking about my future. They always tell you, think about the future, think about the next step. You don't do that until like the last week of high school, right? So the grade year, I'm looking at the sheet of all of these classes that they offer, and I was thinking, well, maybe I should be interested in a couple of these. So they actually had barbering, which intrigued my mind because there's few barbers in my family, and I was like, oh well, I do like cutting hair, and that's always cool. And so we're going through the list, and the instructor says, actually, barbering is not available anymore. It's not a course anymore. We don't have that. So that was a typo. So culinary arts and then carpentry were the next two ones that I thought of. My stepdad was a carpenter. I always helped him out with jobs, and culinary arts was just something that just popped out at me. So we were able to take a tour of the facility. So you were able to tour two of the classes. So I only chose two. So I was able to go to both of those. So carpentry and culinary arts. And I went to the carpentry class. They had some of the students try to sell you on coming to take the course. Whoever the student was not a very good salesperson. Okay. They were just so boring and monotonous that I was like, okay, cool. You got your tool belt and the tool, boots, and this is what we do. We measure everything out. It was really poor salesmanship. So when we got to the culinary program, the chef was so like high energy and was yelling like but in a good way, like hurry up, I need more salmon, I need more, I need more rice, I need more, something like I could picture myself in this program. So I enrolled the next following years for culinary arts, and we did a little bit of baking and pastry in that. But the baking and pastry side was a little bit more difficult for me. The cooking was easier, but the challenge for me was the pastry, cutting cakes, decorating them, figuring out the consistency for a ganache and all these different things. So I always like taking on challenges. That's something that's really difficult for me. Now, when I first started, I was terrible, to be honest with you. I was terrible. I say that, but I needed a lot of improvement. I say that to my students. So I took a challenge show. After that, that was my junior and senior years of high school. I applied for school as a for a pastry student. And I got accepted to CIA, Johnson Wales, New England Culinary Institute. And I just took off from there. So I took, everything I learned from the little couple years, a few hours a day in high school, and I just ran with it in college. And then after I graduated college, I've worked at all these prestigious places, and I was like, realized, you're really good at this. Let's keep going.
Right.
Let's ride the wave. So I kept going.
So if only that person was good at selling you carpentry, you could be making furniture right now instead of,
Correct.
making delicious
Correct.
croissants and donuts.
Yeah. Which is actually interesting because on my free time, I do like to reclaim furniture or paint furniture and all that stuff. Very handy. So.
Wow. So it seems like you've always been a creative person. It almost seems like your path, no matter what, would have been in some type of creative field, something where you're using your hands and making something.
Correct.
You've mentioned that you come from a mixed background in your family. Like your family background is quite mixed. You mentioned your stepdad previously.
Right.
How was growing up and creating different types of dishes influence you and how you create things today?
Well, I've always had a different approach. My stepdad is from Poland, so he's half Polish, half German. So we ate a lot of Polish and German cuisine during my, all different smoked sausages, different soups and borscht, and all these different international dishes that normally, someone like me or someone in my neighborhood would have no idea. This delicious food is something that's available to eat. So my approach has always been different. And my dad, coming from a different country, he came to the United States in the late 80s, I believe it was. So he's not foreign, and he's more of he's an American citizen. But the way he grew up and the way he does things, it was a little bit different than how we normally would do things, or my mom would do things. So certain things, I'm not going to get too much into detail, but certain things we did a little differently, especially with food. But that has changed my approach on how different things, and especially I've been able to embrace people for their cultures and their differences, because I understand it's like, just because I grew up one way or would have liked to grow up one way doesn't mean you have to grow up the exact same way too, and vice versa, exactly the same way. So that's always I've been able to understand people, and that's helped me in this industry, working with different people from all different backgrounds and languages and cultures and customs. I've been able to get along with everyone.
One of the things that when I was, reading up on you and trying to plan this and know the questions to ask, that really interested me was that you said that your philosophy on cooking comes in the form of a question: why? And you just mentioned how your background makes you see other people and understand more cultures, and also maybe asking, why does this happen, or why do we do things a certain way? What was one of the biggest whys that you asked yourself in your career, that you said, why is this done this way, and what can I do differently?
That's a very good question. So in the culinary industry, it's very notorious for being known as this very brutal, militaristic. Gordon Ramsay is a very big poster child. I hate saying poster child, but big poster advertiser for the culinary industry.
Right.
It's always mean. You always have some big, tall, 6-foot guy yelling at you. Always a guy, right? Always big, some tall, 6-foot guy yelling at you, berating you, insulting you in front of everyone, telling you how long for my salad. you know. Now, I've worked in a few places that have been like that, very abusive and degrading, including to me and myself.
Mm.
But the biggest why is for me was, why does it have to be? Why is it like that? Does it have to be like that? Can I alter my conversation to this person? How long on this salad? And get it in the exact same amount of time without yelling.
Mm.
And if I were to yell, right, can I get the same results? Is it going to take 5 minutes regardless if I yell at this person or not?
Right.
Then if I have to yell at this person, I'm draining more of my energy. Yeah, it's good for the TV cameras. It's good for, I guess, to boost your ego to be more, aggressive and machismo. But is it necessary to do that to this person? No, it's not. So I've always, when I started getting into management positions, and as in my 16-year career, I've kind of jumped. My career kind of slingshotted from a low level to pretty much a high level very, very fast. So when I got into the management side of pastry, I made it, a mission of mine to not treat people, especially people under my tutelage,
Mm.
not to treat them, to speak to them as adults, speak to them as I would want to be spoken to, and as just a level of respect. If you give respect, you get respect back. I want them to respect me as a boss, as a human being, as a manager. Then I have to respect them back as an employee of mine. They're not just objects. We're all human beings too.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I agree with that. Speaking about treating other people with respect, I definitely have to point out the fact that not only do I not know a pastry chef, but to say that I know a Black pastry chef is a completely other realm. So
Right,
I can't be dismissive about that, about how that
right.
may have affected you in your industry. You've talked about how you slingshot up, but that's very rare. What do you think
Yes.
made you stand out and make you create a path for yourself that was different than what people may think based on what you look like?
That's a very good question. And it's always been a challenge, difficult, because it doesn't matter what my resume says. It doesn't matter how talented I am or how much I show them on my interviews or stages, how good I am. The first thing they see when I walk in the door is my face, my
Mm.
color, my skin. And I can instantly, I've become very good at getting used to human energy, like understanding human energy. And you can tell when the energy changes, especially when you walk in the room. The energy instantly changes. You can tell when someone's afraid of you, when they like you, when they're interested in conversation with you. Their energy will change. So I have walked into a lot of rooms where the energy has instantly changed for the negative, in the negative side, and it's become very, very uncomfortable. So I've had to be very, very confident. Some would say overconfident, to overcome that overcompensating energy that's meant to. Why is this guy here? What is he doing? Who is that? Why is what is he? How did he get in here? Did someone leave the door open?
Mm.
So if I've had to, overcome a lot of things, and to sum it up, primarily, I've had to work 2 times, sometimes even 3 times as hard as everyone else just to get the same recognition. I've had to sacrifice a lot. The way my career, I wouldn't take it back, but the way my career has run, but to be honest with you, I wish I would have taken more time to enjoy myself, my time in college, enjoy myself as a 20-year-old, as a teen, in my teens, because I just work, 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 in order to just just get into the door. I've had to work and sacrifice so hard and study and practice, 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 practice. I was always doing something in college. I never really hung out with my friends until like the last couple months before I graduated, but I was always either in a club, a pastry arts club, special functions club, the bread club, some sort of club function, assisting, teaching classes on the weekends, assisting chefs with other special events. I was always doing something to gain more experience. So if ever I was in a situation where I get, talked down to because I'm Black, I can back it up with my skills.
With your
So I've
skills,
always
and
been like,
this is my
yeah, I
resume.
can
You can see
always,
everything I've
exactly,
done.
exactly. I can always back it up, And I'm never afraid to, speak up for myself now. And now that I'm in this position, but I've always had to kind of fight to survive just barely enough as everyone else is comfortable. I've worked in a lot of places, especially in fine dining. So to explain fine dining, the finer you get it, the higher the fine dining, the less people of color there are.
Mm.
So I've worked in a lot of places where I've been the only person of color in the entire restaurant, including the guests. Okay. So that's always been, for some people that's very uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me, and I got kind of used to it, unfortunately. It's certain situations where you're very uncomfortable, so sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and suck it up. And other times you got to go into the walk-in or the closet and regain your composure because someone just said something to you that would make you blow up, and you don't want to be labeled as the angry black man or the angry black woman. So you got to pick and choose your battles, and that's always been difficult for me.
How was that experience, and even outside of that, influence how you teach your students in not just making pastries, but also learning composure and dealing with, because it is a very customer service based job as well. Someone may
Right.
not like what you make, or they may send it back and say you didn't do this right. So what skills or values do you instill in your students to make them better overall?
So almost every day when I'm doing my demo, I demo to my students the products that we're making today. So this week we're making puff pastry and danishes. So whenever doing my demo, I always explain to them, for the most part, and depending on the product that we're making, that you are in control. You have to be confident in every situation. You can't let the situation own you. You own the situation. If you lose ownership over the situation, you lose control. So if you're making like pastry cream or something like that, or some type of custard, right, and it overcooks, or it burns, or it overboils, or the milk bubbles over, right? That's you not paying attention. That's you not being in control of the situation. As long as you're in control, nothing bad is going to happen. So uh, you know, confidence is probably the number one thing I have to explain to them, because a lot of them are coming right out of high school. They're unsure of what they want to do for the most part. So that unsureness will translate into when they start making stuff on the bench. When I'm making scones, pie, right? I can tell, piping in chocolate, I can tell how unconfident you are by the way that you're piping the letters. Happy birthday, congratulations. I can tell your hand is kind of jerking, you're unconfident. So just let it flow, be confident. That's what people love, and people will feed off of that, your confidence. Now, I'm a very confident person, and as an instructor, I lead by example to show that someone like me, especially someone that looks like me, especially I am actually the youngest person on the faculty by quite some years. So someone my age and with
Right.
my level of confidence, and someone that looks like me, can do this and be so comfortable doing it that you can do it as well too.
Confidence. That
Yes,
is, yeah. Confidence is not something easy that comes to everyone. Do you think that
correct.
you had to learn to be more confident, or do you think it came naturally?
Yes. So naturally, I've actually always been a shy person. So most of my classmates from high school, I was always very shy back. I never really talked to me. So to be honest with you, some of them have never even heard me speak, because I've always been so shy and like I would mumble. So when I went to college, that was kind of my step. Like, okay, I don't know anybody here. Nobody knows that I'm shy. This is my chance to get out of my shell. And I took that opportunity as soon as I got there, and I'd never looked back. Now I'm still a little shy, but now I can be the life of the party. I can be that guy that, oh, hey, Jesse, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, brother? I'm that kind of guy, that high energy person. But it always wasn't like that. So I kind of had to learn how to do that. And that was very, very difficult. Probably one of the most difficult things for me, learning to get out of my shell, not to be so shy, and then learn to be more confident, be more assertive. Because I got walked over a lot in high school, middle school. I got walked over a lot, a lot, a lot. And I didn't want that to be my life. I didn't want to be walked all over all my life. So I made a change to say that, you know what, Jesse, when you go to college, this is your time, your opportunity to set this, set the story straight, be assertive, let everyone know that you are not, some pushover that you can be walked over. Speak up for yourself and show them that, you are a human being too, and you're here to do great things.
I love that about you. It seems that when you see a problem or something that like you said, you've mentioned about being in control of the situation. You realize,
Right.
okay, I don't want to be walked over. So what can I do to make sure that this gets better, this gets fixed? And then you built
Right.
on that confidence. You talked about, as I was reading about you, you've talked about not being comfortable with writing before, and you
Right.
worked on that, and then you got better at it. So it seems that with you believe that practice and actually just deciding to make a change is the
Right.
only way things can change. You can't just linger on, okay, well, I'm not good at this, so that's the end of it.
Correct.
What is one thing that you weren't so good at in the past that you've had to work on and is now like something that you're amazing at?
I'm glad you asked that question. A couple weeks ago in class, we did cakes. The first cake, and which that cake is going to be on their final exam. So I was actually mortified of doing cake decorating when I was in high school at that vocational program because I couldn't cut the cake in half or in thirds evenly. My layers would always be like angular. My lines would never match up. My cake would always be in a spiral. I would never be able to. And my chef picked up on that, and she would purposefully put me on the cake decorating station. Jesse, you have two cakes to do. Jesse, you have two cakes to do. Jesse, you have, three cakes to do today. Make sure you cut them evenly. And that was, I hated that. I could never do it. And that made me so frustrated. And it was like, I only have one chance to do this. And if I don't cut it evenly, what, I was in high school. So what are you going to do? They're not expecting me 100% perfect, but you know what? Repetition over time. Now I've found my way and I can explain that to my students and I see them having the same struggles that I did when I was their age or a few years before. And now I can successfully tell them, do this, lock your wrists, keep your elbow against your hips, move your arm in a sawing motion, exactly like that. As long as you do these three simple things, exactly as I tell you, you will never have a problem cutting a cake ever. So I see them do that, and then sometimes I may have to go in and give some corrective action. But once they do that and I see them cut the cake evenly every single time, that makes me happy, number one, because now I can successfully teach someone else to do that. But it makes them so much excited too, because they're going exactly the way I did, and I was able to coach them to get the proper consistency there. So
That's
that cutting
amazing.
cake.
That's really, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think I've ever cut a cake. My mom used to actually bake cakes, and I would watch
Yes.
her do everything. I didn't know. I just helped her put it in like the boxes, and that was pretty much my job. um You've mentioned that one of your favorite books that that you like is Dessert Foreplay, and that you love the way that the flavor combinations that were introduced to you. What is one out of the box flavor combination that you like, and how do you make it into something that everyone enjoys?
Very good question. So yeah, that was one of my favorite books growing up, and that kind of introduced me to unusual or non like peanut butter and jelly. For lack of a better term, the peanut butter and jelly flavor combinations. Peanut butter and jelly is something that everyone loves and everyone is used to. So I wanted to contemporize my flavor combination because I don't just want to be making peanut butter and jelly or chocolate and caramel desserts my whole life. So there's another book called The Flavor Bible. So the Flavor Bible is a really thick book that it lists all the different flavor combinations, things that go very well with other flavors. So you can look up, oh, well, I want to make a blueberry dessert. I can look up all the different flavors that go well with blueberries or different herbs, spices, all the different flavors, and then you can build other flavors and dessert components off of that. So I spent a lot of time reading that book. So I've done quite a few desserts with mango and white sesame
I love
and
mango.
coconut, actually, to be free. Work very well together. And I was very surprised because never had that flavor combination together. So I made that into a dessert. I actually made a white sesame ice cream. So I toasted white sesame seeds and put them into my ice cream base. Amazing flavor. Like I've never had white sesame ice cream ever before. I probably never will unless I make it myself. But that with the mango and the coconut together was such a flavor explosion.
That sounds
I
so good.
So I've made a few desserts with that. I've made a few like I've in my business I had a white sesame and mango coconut donut. So I just keep going with that flavor combo. And other things, I've used not dragon fruit. What's the other one? Prickly pear, and passion fruit. Prickly pear is very sweet, but very like vibrant fuchsia color. When you turn that into a sorbet, it's very, very beautiful. Passion fruit, milk chocolate. Yes. Really, I also like dabbling into utilizing savory flavors too. So I've made a carrot cake dessert using all savory components. So I did a parsnip puree with vanilla. I did cured carrots. So I boiled the carrots in this sugar syrup, so they were more sweet. Walnut crumble, white rye and honey cake. All these different components that are mainly used in the savory application to apply them in the sweet. Because dessert, just because it's dessert doesn't necessarily mean it has to be sweet.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
That is, I've got to definitely taste that donut, the mango. Yeah, that sounds like mango is like my favorite fruit. So anything, just
Awesome.
mention the word mango and I'm there. You mentioned that you had Fedora Donuts. Do you think that are you going to go back into that business later on? Do you see that in the future? I know you said you closed down because of COVID, but it seems that it
Right.
was something that you were passionate about and you really enjoyed.
Yes, I really enjoyed having my business and something that I created that represented me as a business. So it was very heartbreaking to see my business close, but let alone all these different businesses close. A few restaurants that I've worked at have closed too. That really hurt my heart. Yes, eventually I'm going to say yes. I would like to open it again. But my primary focus right now is to be a teacher, instructor, and I plan on being a teacher for the rest of my career, so the next 30, 35 years. So at some point in that time period, I would like to open it again. However, I want to be more of a business owner and less of a technician. In my business, I was more of the technician, business owner, manager. I was doing all of the work.
Everything.
A man of many hats. It was just a one-man circus. And I don't want to do that again because I don't want to overwork myself. And I realized, and during doing business coaching and realizing, okay, I don't want to be a slave to my business, and that's kind of what I was a little bit. I didn't realize it, but I was. So if I am going to open my business again, I'm going to bring on more people or train people to do the job I was doing, and I want to just own the business, manage the business, and then if we want to happen, open a second, open location, we can open a second location, franchise it, do other things, and just run the business. I don't want to be making donuts all day.
Right. You want to be from the managerial position, making sure that it's getting done, not that you're doing every single part.
Correct.
Yes, that
Yes.
definitely can be overwhelming and energy draining.
Yes.
um, if anyone wants to be a pastry chef and they're interested in something like that, what would be the the biggest or the most important advice that you would give to them?
Education. That's the number one thing. Educate, educate, educate. Now, when I say education, that doesn't necessarily mean come to culinary school. That doesn't mean spend six figures on an education. That means educate yourself. So that means reading, writing, going to take a small class. Take a 2-day class, a weekend class. Um, Buying books. When I first started in this industry, YouTube had first been created. So back when YouTube first started, it was mainly just silly cat videos, which was very funny. There were no ads, there was no, advertisement or anything. You just press play, you watch the whole video, and then you go to the next one. There wasn't even autoplay either, so you had to click on each individual video.
You're aging yourself
So what I
here.
did when I was yeah, when I was 16, 17 years old, I would watch YouTube videos all day long of how to temper chocolate, how to decorate cakes, all these different cake decorating techniques, how to make puff pastry, all these different things. Now, YouTube is today, you can watch anything on YouTube. So now we're in a day and age where you can pretty much educate yourself online. So you can utilize the things the people, you just type in, pastry cream, or type in how to make eclair. You watch hundreds of hours of videos on how to make eclairs. So I spent a lot of my teenage years on the weekend. I wasn't going out hanging with friends, getting into trouble. I was watching 8, 9 hours of YouTube videos on the weekends on how to temper chocolate, how to decorate cakes, how to make puff pastry, how to, make butter, how sugar is made, how oil is made, how understanding all of these things, educating myself, because I knew at some point I'm going to need to know all of this stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, I did a lot of trial and error in my own kitchen, but, monetary restrictions, they have their restrictions on yourself. But at least understanding the process. So when you are able to do it, a good one for me with, tempering chocolate, using the tabling method. So you pour your chocolate onto a marble slab, and you would work the tools together, agitating the chocolate to crystallize the cocoa butter crystals. So I'd never done that. I never had the opportunity to do that until I got to culinary school. So when I was able to actually finally do it after watching, 10 hours of someone or some people doing it, it came naturally to me. I was, really good at it because I had watched someone else do it for so many times. I understood the hand motions to work the tools and work the slab on the chocolate on the table, that it came second nature to me. So always continuing to educate yourself in traditional, non-traditional ways. I'm a culinary instructor. I'm, successful pastry chef, but now I'm teaching other people. But this summer, I'm going to take a class by another professional that teaches croissant, Danish, and all different laminated doughs. So I'm going to go take a week-long class so I can better myself. Someone that's a master in making croissant, Danishes, and all different laminated products is teaching a class, and I was like, sign me up. I want to learn more on this product. So hopefully, eventually, I'll be able to teach a class on something that I'm an expert in. So some other professionals can. I actually did last year on eclairs and cream puffs. So that's, always going to learn and always going to continue to educate myself. And that's something I would explain to anyone looking to get into this industry. Always look for an educational opportunity and take notes, take video. You will use it at some point.
That is, I love that advice. I think we all have to be willing to learn, no matter what industry, to be better at whatever you do. You just have to continue to be open to learning and knowing that you don't have monopoly of knowledge. You don't know everything.
Right.
And there's always new
Right.
techniques, new ways to do
Right.
things. And you just have to be open to it. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for sharing more about yourself. I learned so much about you today, and I'm so happy for this conversation and learning more
Absolutely.
about just the work of art that you create. I'm a dessert lover, so so hearing more about it is really, really a beautiful thing. For those that want to keep updated with you and learn more about your art, and also I'm sure you do tutorials sometimes, and maybe they want to learn
Sure.
from you.
Yeah.
Where can they stay updated and learn more about what you do?
Great question. So I post most of my content, usually weekly, depending on what we're doing in class and how the products come out, how well the students do. I post stuff on my Instagram mostly. So my Instagram handle is Ganache0607. So GANACHE 0607. I am also on Facebook as Jesse Jackson III, I believe, or just Jesse Jackson. You'll see my picture. So it's that guy, with the glasses. Me. So yeah, most of my stuff is posted on Instagram. I post a lot of my stories too. And most of my stuff, my captions are educational of some sort. So they do have some sort of lesson or remembrance or something that I've I'm making this pastry, I'm showing you this picture, but there's a story behind it. There's always some sort of story behind all of my posts. So people always love, to read or hear the background of how something was created, or some story, significant story from my career, from the pictures. So that's always cool, that people feedback that I get from my followers. So
Oh yeah, I do love
please
that
tune in.
about it. Like the pain au chocolat that you showed the other day, and the lamination, and I guess that's part of the thing that you said you're learning, you're gonna take a master class on. So that was really cool
Correct.
to see. And the peach cobbler
Yeah.
that you did for Juneteenth, that was also amazing too. I
Thank
definitely
you.
think
Thank
a
you.
lot of people will learn a lot from what you do and what you share. I really appreciate you again coming on the show, making the time and sharing your work with us. Thank you everyone for listening and joining us today. Have a great day. Bye everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Enjoyed today's episode? Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so that you can stay up to date on the latest episode of Conversations with Opie.